Grim thought right. All our fancy tech and weapons, and we still can't escape the brutal reality of hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, it's kind of humbling, isn't it? Like, no matter how advanced we get, that primal need to defend ourselves up close and personal, it's not going away.
Right. It comes down to skill and, well, a certain mindset, you could say.
Certain mindset for sure.
That's what we're going to unpack today. All in Fighting by Captain W.E. Fairbairn and Captain P.N. Walbridge. And I want to be clear, this isn't about pretty martial arts or scoring points.
No, not at all.
This is about survival, pure and simple.
Exactly. Surviving when someone's trying to do you harm and they don't care about rules.
And these authors, they knew what they were talking about.
They did, yeah. Captain Fairbairn, for instance, decades on the Shanghai Municipal Police Force.
Right.
He established their riot squads, commanded them.
Wow, so he was in the thick of it.
Yeah, he was their chief instructor in self-defense, too, training some pretty tough guys.
Wait, so was this guy like a martial arts master or something?
No. He was the real deal first Westerner to get a black belt from the Kodokan Jiu-Jitsu University in Tokyo. That's outside of Japan, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't stop there. Went on to get his second-degree black belt, studied under a Chinese martial arts instructor, too. Worked in the Imperial Palace in Peking. So, yeah, serious credentials.
That's intense.
And then in 1940, gets even more interesting. He becomes the captain instructor in close combat at a special training center.
So this wasn't just theory for him.
Not at all. The methods he developed, they were so effective, the British Army adopted them as standard training across the board. That says something.
Definitely. Now, we can't forget Captain Walbridge. He wrote the section on rifles in close combat, right?
Yeah, Walbridge was a crack shot, literally long-standing member of the Army of the 8th shooting team, won tons of competitions.
So the guy knew his way around a rifle, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
So what are we doing today? What's the mission for this deep dive?
Okay, so we're going to pull out the main principles, the core techniques from All in Fighting, give you a good grasp of how they approach both unarmed combat and close quarters rifle use.
Okay.
But the most important thing to remember, these methods, they were designed to work for anyone regardless of size or strength.
Okay, so anyone could use these techniques effectively.
That's the idea.
Okay, so let's start with the unarmed combat. Fairbairn's bread and butter. How did he think about fighting?
Okay, so his philosophy, it's all about pragmatism, pure and simple, no rules, no fancy moves.
So like the opposite of something like judo?
Exactly, forget sportsmanship. This is about disabling your opponent quickly and efficiently, or if you absolutely have to, killing them.
So this is serious stuff.
Deadly serious, especially when you're up against someone ruthless, someone who doesn't hesitate to use any means necessary.
Wow, so it's about survival.
Survival, yes, and a big part of that is your mindset.
What do you mean?
It's about developing this absolute refusal to be defeated, this fierce will to win no matter what.
So it's as much mental as it is physical.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are some of the key principles behind these techniques?
Well, first is vulnerability. You have to make your opponent receptive to holds and other moves by hitting them first.
So you don't just go straight for a complex move.
No, you create an opening. Think of it like a startled animal. They're less coordinated, right?
I see, so you're disorienting them.
Yeah, breaking their focus with that initial strike.
Okay, so weaken their defenses first.
Got it. Second principle, selection and specialization. They don't say you have to learn everything. Just pick about 10 techniques that work best for you and your body type.
So it's tailored to the individual.
Exactly, and practice them until they're second nature.
That's it. Quality over quantity.
That's it. And this leads to the third principle, instinctive action you practice until your moves are automatic, no thinking required.
So in a high-pressure situation, you just react.
Right. Daily practice with a partner, starting slow, then building up speed and intensity.
Makes sense, drilling it in until it becomes muscle memory.
Exactly. And the last big principle is off balance.
Off balancing. Okay.
Every move, every strike, even how you step, it's all designed to disrupt your opponent's balance, to set them up for a decisive blow or a hold.
Okay, so you're constantly trying to keep them off balance.
That's the idea.
Okay, let's get into some specifics now. Starting with the blows, they recommend. The first one is the edge of the hand blow. How do you do that?
Okay, so you use the knife edge of your hand, the little finger side, about halfway between your knuckle and your wrist.
Okay, and what's the motion like?
It's a sharp chopping motion from the elbow, but your arm is bent, never straight, and you put your whole body weight behind it. They even say to practice hitting your open palm to get the motion right.
So a focused, powerful chop.
Mm-hmm.
What are the main targets for this?
They list a bunch: the sides or back of the wrist, the forearm, about halfway up the biceps, the sides, or back of the neck just below the Adam's apple, the kidney area, and the base of the spine.
Wow, that's a lot of options.
And what's really interesting, they say this blow can be super effective. Even if someone's got a grip on you, it can actually break their wrist or forearm.
Oh, wow. So it's more powerful than a regular punch in that situation.
That's what they claim.
Yeah, could I?
Yeah.
Okay, next up, the chin jab.
That's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's an upward stripe with the heel of your hand fingers spread towards their eyes.
Okay. And you put your full force into it, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. Aim for the chin. It's a close-range blow, usually with the bent arm. The hand doesn't travel far.
Any tips for making this one really count?
Yeah, they say if you knee them in the groin or even just fake it, their chin drops forward, automatically perfect target.
Ouch. Not a fun combo.
No, not at all. They say to practice just holding your hand at chin height and jabbing upwards fast and hard.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah,
What about
no.
the boot or side kick that sounds like it could take someone by surprise?
You know, they say the regular boot kick should be sideways, not straight on.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
It gives you more power and reach. You pivot your body, put your weight on one foot, bend that knee slightly, and raise your other foot a few inches.
Okay, so you're coiled up and ready.
Then you thrust out your kicking foot and for just below their kneecap. And that's it, just a quick kick.
No, you follow through, scrape the edge of your boot up their shin from below the knee all the way to the instep and finish with all your weight on that foot.
So you're trying to crush the bones in their foot.
That's the goal, and if you need to, you can follow up with a chin jab right away.
Brutal, but I guess effective?
Now, they also talk about this thing called the bronco kick.
The Bronco kick, what's that?
It's for when someone's on the ground, it's like a flying jump. You bring your knees up to your chest feet together. Then when your feet are about 8 inches above them, you extend your legs straight out, driving both boots into their body.
Wow, that sounds devastating.
It's designed to be, they say, the force generated by your legs, your body weight focused through those little heel plates, could be like 300 pounds.
300 pounds.
Yeah, like driving a heavy peg into the ground. It's meant to be almost impossible to block and to instantly put them on the defensive.
Okay, moving on. What about the knee strike? That's another close quarters one, right?
Super close, you shift your weight onto one leg, bend the knee of the other leg, draw your heel back a bit, then explode upwards, driving your knee into their groin.
Ouch.
It's a powerful attack on its own, but they also say it's great for setting up a chin jab because it forces their upper body forward.
I see a 1-2 punch or a knee and jab, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay, now let's talk about getting out of holds. Let's say someone grabs your wrist. What do you do?
Okay, for a single hand grab, you gotta be fast. You bend your wrist and arm inwards towards your body and at the same time, twist your wrist outwards against their thumb.
So you're using their grip against them.
Yeah, speed is key here. If it's your left wrist, you do the same thing but twist the other way, and you always follow up with a chin jab or an edge of the hand blow if you can.
Okay, so disrupt the hold and strike back.
Exactly. What if they grab your wrist with both hands?
Oh, that's got to be tougher to get out of.
It is, but there's a way. If they've got your left wrist with their thumbs on top, you reach over with your right hand, grab your left hand, and pull it towards you, hard breaking their grip.
Okay, and if their thumbs are underneath?
Then you pass your right hand under, grab your left, and pull downwards again. It's all about that sudden, forceful pull.
And then counterattack.
Absolutely. What about a stranglehold from the front?
Oh, man. That's scary.
Especially if they got you against a wall, but you smash your free hand onto their wrist, aim for the opposite side of your body, and immediately follow up with a knee to the groin.
So break the hold and hit a vulnerable spot.
That's it. What about a bear hug from the front arms pinned?
That sounds really tough.
It is. But you've got options, they say. A sharp upward knee to the groin is your best bet.
Makes sense.
Other options, scrape your boot down their shin stump on their instep if you're wearing a helmet, smash them in the face with it, or, well, grab their testicles.
Okay, so target those sensitive areas.
Right. Anything to break the hold and give you a chance to fight back. They even mentioned biting the ear.
Biting the ear? Really?
Yeah, even if it doesn't do much damage, it'll make them react, bend forward, then you can go for the groin again.
I see. So you're creating an opening.
Another option is to reach over their arm with your forearm, really put pressure on it, break their hold, force their head down, then knee them in the face.
Wow, these are some brutal techniques.
They are, but they're designed to work. Let's talk about holds now. The thumb hold. They say it's surprisingly effective. Why is that?
I'm curious about that one.
So the thumb hold, it's apparently the most effective control hold out there. It takes very little effort on your part, just a few pounds of pressure, but it gives you total control over someone even if they're really strong.
How does that work?
It's all about leverage. They say you can even use the person you've got in the hold as a shield.
Wow. That's incredible.
The reason it's not more well known is that it's pretty complex to get right. The movements are tricky, takes practice.
Okay, so it's not something you'd use right away.
No, it's more of a finishing hold, something you apply after you've weakened your opponent.
Got it. What about smacking the ears? That sounds interesting.
Yeah, if someone's not wearing head protection, a good cupped hand strike to both ears can do a lot of damage.
Like how much damage are we talking?
They say it can rupture eardrums or at least give them a concussion and disorient them, making them much easier to control.
Okay, so it's a way to subdue someone quickly.
Exactly.
Now, what about the sentry hold? That sounds very specific.
It is. It's all about taking out a sentry quietly from behind. They assume you've been watching them. You're approaching in low light.
Okay, so this is a stealthy maneuver.
Yeah. The first move is a sharp strike to the throat with the edge of your forearm, and at the same time you punch them in the small of the back or their breathing apparatus, like the solar plexus.
You're stopping them from yelling for help and winding them.
Right. Then you clamp your hand over their mouth and nose so they can't breathe or make any noise. The goal is to knock them out fast before they can raise an alarm.
Makes sense. Very efficient.
They even say to practice this one, but with less force so you get the technique down without hurting anyone.
Good advice.
Okay.
Let's move on to throws.
Mm.
What about the hip throw? How does that work?
Okay, so you grab their equipment or their arms above the elbows. One hand pulls down, the other lifts up to get them off balance at the same time. You extend one leg back behind them, close to their thigh foot, positioned right for leverage.
Okay, so you're setting them up.
Yeah, then you keep pulling and lifting while bending forward and down at the waist. It's a smooth motion that lifts them and throws them over your hip.
Like judo almost.
Kind of, and then you can follow up with a kick to the spine.
So even the throws are about taking them down hard.
Absolutely. They also describe a variation for if someone's coming at you from the left, you do a chin jab, then a backward kick to their legs.
Okay, so again, you're disrupting their balance.
That's it.
Now let's get to some of their other advice. They say you can use a chair as a weapon against a knife attack.
Yeah, that one's interesting. They say to hold the chair like a lion tamer and charge at the attacker, jabbing the legs of the chair into them.
So you're using the chair as a shield and a weapon at the same time.
Exactly. They say it gives you a much better chance of surviving, like 3 times better than going in unarmed.
Makes sense. The reach and the multiple points of contact would be a big advantage.
And what about the matchbox attack? Have you heard of that one?
The matchbox attack. What's that?
Imagine you're sitting down and someone pulls a gun on you from the side.
Not a good situation.
You take a matchbox, hold it in a certain way, and when they press the gun into you, you parry it with your other forearm to deflect it, and at the same time, you strike upwards with the matchbox hand, aiming for their jaw.
So you're using the matchbox as a weapon.
Yeah, the idea is that it's so unexpected they won't see it coming, and a good hit can knock them out, or at least disorient them.
Wow, I never would have thought of that.
They also talk about getting up from the ground, but they don't really focus on ground fighting. Why do you think that is?
I'd guess it's because in a real fight, you don't want to be on the ground.
That's exactly it. They say ground fighting takes a lot of time to master, and in a real fight, you might have multiple attackers.
Right, so being on the ground makes you a target.
Plus, they point out that falling on mats in training is a lot different from falling on hard ground or uneven terrain in a fight. Even a small impact in the wrong spot can take you out.
Okay, so they prioritize staying on your feet.
Yeah, and if you do fall, they give you 2 methods for getting back up fast, one going forwards, one going backwards.
Makes sense. The last thing they talk about is attacking with a stick or a cane. How effective can that really be?
More than you'd think. They say just having a stick can make you feel more confident and scare off attackers.
Okay, the psychological effect.
Right. But it can also do some real damage. They recommend a stick about 18 to 24 inches long, and they say to hold it in an unusual way so it doesn't look like you're about to attack.
Interesting. So you're disguising your intentions.
The first move is a hard circular strike to their stomach with one end of the stick that'll make them double over. Then you jab upwards with the same end into the soft spot below their chin in the neck.
Wow, that sounds dangerous.
It is. If you miss the neck, you can smash down on their face with the stick. The stomach strike is key, though, because it sets up the other blows.
Okay, so you're creating an opening.
Exactly.
Okay, let's shift gears now and talk about rifles in close combat. Captain Walbridge's specialty. He really believed in the rifle for this kind of fighting. What was his reasoning?
Well, he basically said that The rifle is way more versatile than people think. It's not just for long range. It can be devastating up close, almost like a submachine gun.
Interesting. So he was advocating for bringing the rifle into close quarters engagements.
Absolutely. And he stressed the importance of accuracy even when firing fast and having a rifle that shoots straight. He gives clear instructions on how to adjust the sights if you're having problems.
So he starts with the basics. Makes sense.
Yeah, he talks about cleaning the rifle meticulously, both the barrel and the chamber, very important. Then he gets into aiming techniques.
Amy, okay.
He covers both iron sights and aperture sights. The key is to focus on the front sight and aim for the center of the target. He even suggests this cool trick for checking your aim. You fix the rifle securely, then look through the sights from the bullet end to see if everything's lined up.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, it's a good one. Then he talks about loading, how to fill the magazine chargers correctly so you can reload fast without jamming.
Okay. And then firing positions.
Yeah, he starts with the prone position, lying down. That's the foundation for learning how to handle the rifle quickly and shoot accurately.
Okay. So you mastered the basics first.
He talks about how important your elbow placement is in the prone position.
Yep.
They're your pivot point for bringing the rifle up to aim smoothly.
Okay. Then the trigger press.
Yeah. He says to take up the slack in the trigger, the first pressure, then breathe normally until you're ready to fire, then hold your breath for a split second while you squeeze the trigger smoothly. Keep both eyes open to see where your shot lands.
Okay. So it's about control and precision.
Definitely now in close combat, speed is obviously crucial. How do you achieve that with a rifle?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Walbridge says every shot, even when you're firing fast, should be aimed just as carefully as a slow shot. The speed comes from how efficiently you work the bolt.
The bolt? Okay.
He described this technique. You tilt the rifle slightly to the right, grab the bolt knob, firmly pull it back smoothly, then slam it forward and down to close the breech. All these motions should flow together as fast as possible.
So it's like a well-oiled machine.
Exactly. He even suggests tying the trigger back so you can practice the bolt action without worrying about firing.
That's a good training tip. What about actually getting faster?
He's got a whole training program, starts with dry fire drills, just practicing the motions, then slow aimed shots, then gradually increasing the number of shots you can fire accurately in a certain amount of time.
So building up your speed gradually.
The goal, he says, is to be able to fire 30 aimed shots in 60 seconds using dummy rounds. He also recommends having a friend watch your aim through binoculars to see if you're doing it right.
Okay, now in a real close quarters fight, you're probably not going to be lying down. What about firing from standing?
He covers that too. He says speed is key, and you'll probably be firing from the hip, or the shoulder. Firing from the hip is less accurate, but really fast firing from the shoulder is more balanced.
Yeah.
Good speed and accuracy.
So you have to choose depending on the situation.
Yeah, and he says it's super important to carry your rifle ready to go so you can shoulder it instantly if you need to.
Okay, so always be prepared.
Right. And for really, really fast firing, he has this kind of unorthodox technique. You press the trigger with your first or second finger while keeping a grip on the bolt handle.
So you're bypassing the normal trigger pull.
Exactly. He says you can get off like 5 shots in 4 seconds with practice.
Wow, that's incredible.
But what happens when you run out of ammo or there's no time to reload?
That's where the bayonet comes in, I guess.
He says the bayonet is your last resort. He advises keeping the point low, except if you're in a tight formation with your buddies, because a low point is harder to block and you can strike in any direction.
Okay, makes sense.
The attack is a lunge forward, driving the bayonet into their stomach because their chest and head will probably be protected by gear. You pull it out with a sharp twist while stepping back, and if you can't thrust, he says, to smash the side of their head with the butt of the rifle.
So basically use whatever works.
Right. And once the fighting's done, he really stresses cleaning your rifle.
Yeah, I bet that's important.
Crucial. He says you got to clean it right away to prevent rust. He describes the whole process. Dry clean the barrel, then pour boiling water through it to get rid of corrosive stuff. Dry everything thoroughly, then oil all the metal parts.
So it's a whole ritual.
It is, he says, to pay extra attention to cleaning for the first 5 days after firing because the barrel can still sweat out corrosive stuff and rust easily. He also recommends storing the rifle upside down so oil doesn't get into the bolt or drip into your eyes when you use it next.
That's a good tip.
Okay.
So we've covered unarmed combat and rifles. Now, What about disarming someone? Let's say someone's pointing a pistol at you from the front. What do you do?
Well, Fairbairn says even if they've got a gun on you, if they haven't shot yet, they might be planning to take you prisoner or they're just hesitant.
Okay, so there's a window of opportunity.
He says act scared and compliant, let them get close, then in one swift motion, grab their wrist and pivot your body sideways, knocking the gun away.
So you're using their momentum against them?
Yeah. Then you grab the gun with your other hand still holding their wrist and force it back while kneeing them in the groin or kicking them.
So disarm and disable.
He also mentions a variation where you start the grab with your other hand.
Okay, so it's adaptable.
What if they've got you from behind?
That's even worse.
It is, but you can still fight back. You turn inwards towards the gun really fast, pass your arm over and around their forearm close to the wrist, and lock your hand against your chest.
So you're trapping their arm.
Exactly. They can't shoot or let go. Then you immediately hit them, either a knee to the groin followed by a chin jab or an edge-of-the-hand blow to the throat.
So again, you're disabling them as quickly as possible.
If they still don't let go, he says you might have to go for their eyes or even break their leg.
Wow, that's intense.
They also cover disarming someone who's holding a gun on a third person, like if you're trying to rescue someone.
Okay, that's a tricky situation.
You come in from underneath, grab their gun hand, and strike their arm above the elbow. Then you jerk their hand and the gun upwards and backwards, forcing their elbow up.
Why the upward motion?
It's to make sure the gun isn't pointing at the person you're rescuing.
Oh, that's smart.
And you can always follow up with a knee strike if you need to.
Okay, let's move on to the last section, securing a prisoner. This one gets pretty interesting.
Yeah, they start with gagging, they say, to use cloth or even packed turf, shove it in their mouth and tape it securely, but make sure their nose isn't blocked.
Okay, so you're silencing them, but not suffocating them.
Then they teach you this knot called the highwayman's hitch.
Highwayman's hitch, what's that?
It's a special knot. They say you should practice it until you can tie it in the dark.
Okay, so it's a quick and reliable way to tie someone up.
They use it for all sorts of things, like tying someone's wrist behind their back, then connecting the rope to their neck and their legs bent backwards.
That sounds incredibly uncomfortable.
It is. They even say if the prisoner struggles too much, they could accidentally strangle themselves.
Wow, that's dangerous.
They also describe this thing called the grapevine. You make the prisoner climb a tree or a post, then use their own legs and a rope to tie them in a really awkward position.
So they're basically stuck there.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to escape, but they could get cramps or even strangle themselves if they fall.
Okay, these are definitely not your average restraint techniques.
They also show you how to tie someone to a chair.
How does that work?
You use a chair with an open back. Their arms go through the back and get tied together. Then their upper arms are tied to the sides of the chair, and their feet are tied together with just their toes touching the ground.
So they're completely immobilized.
And you can gag them too if you need to. They even show you how to make handcuffs out of a baton or a stick.
Really? How do you do that?
You cut their belt or suspenders, search them for weapons, then you use a strong cord attached to the baton to twist around their wrists like a tourniquet.
So it's a makeshift way to restrain them.
Exactly. The last thing they cover is breaking free from come-along grips, those holds that are supposed to be inescapable.
Okay, what's their take on that?
They say those holds can be tough to get out of, but if you're really fighting for your life, you've got more strength and pain tolerance than you think.
Okay, so adrenaline takes over.
Yeah, they believe that with the right counter moves, you can break free and even seriously hurt or kill the person holding you.
And they provide specific techniques for different holds.
Yes, they describe how to break the police come-along grip and the collar and wrist hold. It's all about sudden movements and targeting vulnerable spots.
So exploiting weaknesses.
The key is waiting for the exact moment when they're off balance or distracted, then striking back with everything you've got.
Okay, so it's about timing and decisiveness.
Exactly.
Wow, this has been a fascinating look at all infighting. It's clear that Fairbairn and Walbridge created a system that was all about effectiveness, no holds barred.
It's amazing how they combine so many different aspects of combat, unarmed fighting rifles, bayonets, disarming prisoners. It's a complete system built for survival.
And for our listeners, even a basic understanding of these principles can be valuable. Gives you a new perspective on self-defense and the realities of close combat.
And it makes you think about the mental side of things. You know, when your life is on the line, what kind of mindset do you need to have to survive? What does it take to win in those extreme circumstances? Something to think about.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners, stay safe out there.
And be prepared.